Hello, and welcome to the first scene of Edessa the Dark Crusade, Season 2. It's a very, very dusty night out on the border walls of Edessa towards the west side. As a gathering has been called of sorts, although perhaps not yet all know of it. Down the streets towards the gate walk two figures. Both look as if they're of Syrian descent. One rather broad, tall male, his hand on his sword, walking alongside a covered wagon. The man on this wagon, a slightly more opulent-looking fellow, and of a much larger beard, holds onto the reins of the horses that look deeply disturbed, wherever it is they happen to be going, walking towards the entrance to the city, or the exit in their case. As they ride down, a few guards give them side-eye, although the man riding on this wagon waves his hand at them, and with that, one of the guards turns to the other, seems to put his hand on his shoulder, and they ignore them. Once they reach the gate, they end up going. And the armored fellow begins pulling up the portcullis. Opening a way for two other Canaanites who happen to be on the other side of the walls.
The first to arrive is a previous inhabitant of this fine city, a very, very beautiful Franken woman who has seemingly just met someone she hasn't seen in quite a while. She is, at the moment, just hugging a person who has arrived, like she has, with 4 servants, perhaps servants, maybe slaves, who knows? They're just finished talking. They seem to know each other, and they seem to rejoice somewhat in having met once again. Madeline, or Sister Madeline, as she's called, will just look to Orsini, her old friend, and just say, "Well, it is so very good to see you again. It has been for too long. But shall we enter? It's been a wonder to see this, if the city has changed much from when I was last here."
Truly, it has been too long, sister.
Well, we make up for it. No?
As usual.
She smiles to Orsini, just lightly placing a hand upon his cheek, and just, "Come." And she will just nod to her servants to let the stuff they're carrying on a couple of horses, they begin to enter the city.
Orsini, for his part, turns away from Sister Madeline, and as the assembled there can see a small carriage covered coming from behind Orsini. He yells something to the driver in his native tongue, which is Italian. And unless anyone can understand, we'll just presume he yells something to him. And he goes inside the city after nodding to the two men that ordered the gate to be open, and speaks to the guards, telling them, the man with the carriage coming from the distance, he is also with me. Allow him entrance. And as Orsini straightens his clothes and puts his hood on, he gestures towards his sister. Lead on.
Madeline has also like a fairly modest clothing, like that of a merchant. She has like she's wearing black, and she puts her hood up to cover her. Well, please not show her face too much, as she will walk in and enter the city of Edessa.
As they enter, the portcullis falls almost immediately after Orsini's carriage is through. And two individuals that open the gate begin to walk back down. As they do so, both they, out of the corner of the eye, and you, Sister Madeleine, would see something strange occur with Orsini's shadow, as it almost seems to stretch out and wrap around these torches like a snake and just swallow it whole. Rendering the area very dark. If it were not for the fortune of moonlight.
Well, I suppose we all have to make sacrifices in our scholarly efforts. She smiles to Orsini. Not really saying anything else than that. She's being vague as to what might have caused this, but she looks at the two others, and do they seem to want to talk to
yeah,
her,
they're
or...
approaching you.
Okay. And she will stand and wait for them. Just smile.
In the meantime, Orsini is gonna look at the torches that were just extinguished and then back to Madeline. I consider this a benefit of my studies, sister.
The armored man, the left overlay, regards this with a little bit of suspicion of a raised eyebrow, but merely states, an interesting trick. I hope you don't intend to keep it to yourself. Rafik, and this is my subordinate, Omar Shadid. Our superior foretold your arrival. We thought we'd give you a proper welcome.
Thank you very much for this. Please. And she will, Madeline will go over and just curtsy to both of them. Just, may I ask who was this who told you of our arrival?
You'll be meeting him shortly. He is one of us.
Good.
He views you both in high regard. You have quite a reputation in this city. Quite a past, from what I hear. And the man to the right, in kind of heavy-looking robes, just goes, "Ah, yes. The famous Seneschal Madeleine. An absolute honor. And you too. Master of Happies. Held the position longer than I've even been around. Impressive."
Well, let's just say I have talents that were very useful in holding down the city. But that is all in the past. I hold this position no longer. I'm a scholarly man nowadays. I occupy myself with... And as he says this, he takes a step behind and gestures towards the extinguished torches. Different pursuits.
But thank you for your very warm welcome, the both of you. But tell me, is there are we expected somewhere?
Rafik perks up slightly. Yes, I believe you ought to make your way to the Merchants District. The gathering is to take place there. My good child, Shadid, shall go correct the rest of our audience. You are not the only recent arrivals.
Oh, this is good. The magisters can always improve a city. She looks to Orsini, just looks to Orsini and just says, "Come, brother. We will go and meet of these. Where specifically in the merchant's quarter are we supposed to meet?"
The largest building with the tallest spire. You can't miss it.
Very well. Thank you. And I will see you both there, I hope.
You shall. Freak will take control of the wagon that Shadid was using. Shadid will shuffle off somewhere. If you do not have a carriage, but it is clear you do, he would offer to take you to provide you with a taxi service, as it were. But as these two Canaanites begin to head over to the stated location, we begin to home back in on a different area of the city, far from the walls. Much closer to, or perhaps even within the domain of the Magisters. And we focus on Celine, Alexandros, and her haven. What has she been getting up to?
Well, studying, more and more studying. Always more knowledge. That's the only thing that keeps her motivated these nights, usually. Power of in the books, basically, as her shadows dance around her. You know, a magister must know more in order to succeed. She will pore over different books that she receives, and in the darkest of light, so nervous around candlelight, even still, she just seems to just study more and more.
And what is her child doing? Or do they live separately?
No, they don't. At this point, although normally she gets her lessons from Lady Celine, Irene is at the moment fitting a dress and probably walking or walks back to her sire. Curtsies, turns around. Is this appropriate?
For reference, this is what she looks like.
She will turn and raise an eyebrow. Quirks her head. It is appropriate for now, yes. But be sure to be polite. This company is far bigger than both of us. After all, these are the ones that govern the rise and fall of cities.
Yes, my lady, of course.
She nod and close the book very gently. Remember, you are to be kind and courteous and speak when spoken to. If you do not, then the dreams will be worse again tonight.
She blinks a couple of times and simply nods and curtsies again. Yes, my sire. Of course.
Just stand up, like inspect her hair and all that, and inspect everything, and just nod almost approvingly. You look enticing. That is the goal. Be sure to have everyone on your mind and then their lips, for that is your role in this. And she'll just smile.
I will do my best as always, my lady.
Good. Good. We should be going soon, but relax. These meetings are always a formality. You are but a shadow in a larger lake of things that are older than all of us.
Shadow, yes.
And she touch her face almost in acknowledgement, and would sit back down.
And Irene will basically go, probably sit at her feet and take up the book that she'd been reading before changing.
Unfortunately, your reading session doesn't last particularly long, as there's a three slow knocks at your door, or at your sire's door.
Selena get up very gracefully and will fold her arms in her dress and will nod at her child to kind of motion to follow, and she will walk to the door very calmly and casually and just open it up just a creak and peer out.
Irene will make sure that she's a step behind her sire. Exactly a step behind.
Celine, you see a familiar face. You've perhaps seen him once ever, especially been. I've only been in the city about a few days to a week, but you do know of him. You were informed of his presence and his purpose within the city, and the man known as Omar Shadid just goes, "Ah, my ladies." A pleasure to see you this evening. I hope I do not
And
arrive at an inconvenient time. And he will unclasp his
course.
hands and bow in a slightly crooked fashion.
And she'll reciprocate the bow, you know, as she opens the door wide so he can see her child as well. And she will reply in perfect Arabic, you know, not at all. In fact, it is most welcome to see you. And she will bow very, very graciously.
Irene will mimic, of course. Not say a word.
Ah, that makes me glad. We have some new arrivals in the city, and with the swelling of our numbers, a meeting has been called.
Very good. I am eager to meet of this city, as is my child.
Ah, yes. I hope this serves as a good learning experience for the good Lady Irene.
She'll just absentmindedly like play with Irene's hair. Wait, I'm looking at her. Of course, she is very well educated in all these social events. I am most confident in her capabilities.
Irene will smile, and she definitely beams at that compliment.
I am assuming you are leading us to this meeting? And she'll smile politely.
Yes. No carriage service, I'm afraid. That was partaken in by our prior guests.
Your company is all I need. And she'll just smile sweetly, and if he would let her, she will lock arms with him, basically. You know, very polite and formal.
Flattery. And you can. You notice that. Actually, no way he wouldn't be doing that yet, because Orsini's a thing. Yeah, no, you can do that without any repercussions whatsoever, fortunately. And he will, yeah, just come. It is only a few minutes away.
And she'll nod and close the door and link arms and nod for her child to follow behind.
Yep. Following.
You begin walking down the trail in the streets, which are well guarded. The Merchants District has a healthy contingent of the city watch there. And even a more minor contingent of the garrison itself. And within the next few minutes, after a bit of small talk, Madeleine and Orsini, you find Rafik to be oddly silent. He doesn't really say much. Shadid, however, is much more sociable towards Celine, and will even engage with Irene along the way. Before you all end up meeting with each other at the front of this building. A large building, not quite at the center of the Merchants District itself. It's more like it's fairly far in. But it appears to be a rather significant spire of some sort. The lower levels appear to be almost like a medieval, dare I say, office block, the effective equivalent. A household. But it's fairly well defined in its architecture and very vertical. Well designed as well. Whoever made this place was quite wealthy. And you'll be escorted in by these two figures. As you walk up, the stairs kind of spiraling upwards, almost seems to be a metaphor for some sort of class system, as the higher up you go, the more ostentatious things get. To the point where when you're at the top of the spire, you could almost swim in the arrogance befitting the owner of this building. And there'll be a simple knock on the door, the first door at the top of this stairway. And you'll hear a voice saying, "Ah, yes. Let them in." And you will see, as you enter, this figure sitting in a very nice, ornate-looking chair. Extremely well crafted. And behind a desk, and behind, in front, with several, shall we put it, sculptures, art pieces, glazed glass, is this man in a white robe and a red sash and a sword. Again, one is about as radiant as the man himself, just leaning beside it. Please take a seat. We'll begin introduction shortly.
Thank you very much, kind sir.
Seeing a bow
Lady.
politely and smile.
Yeah, Celine, you know this guy.
Oh yeah. Should bow politely and smile at both figures.
Orsini knows him too, if I'm right.
You've heard of this guy. You've definitely, I think, yeah, Orsini, you would have definitely heard of this guy. Madeleine, maybe not, because you're a bit more all over the place. You've traveled to many different places, but Orsini, with where you've gone and where you've been and what you've done, you've definitely heard of him.
Isn't Orsini the guy that Ulrich sent to bring this guy in the city, if I remember right?
Yes, I believe so. Actually, yes, Madeleine, you would know him in that case.
Okay.
You just haven't seen him in a very long time.
And Orsini, recognizing this figure, goes closer and takes a really deep and polite bow. Elder, it is good to see you again.
Hold down.
I am glad to tell you, on this, the day of my returning home, that our eldest send their regards. And Orsini bows again and takes a seat next to Madeleine.
That is good to
Irene,
hear.
oh, sorry.
Also, yeah. Irene, what do you do?
Sorry. She'll take a chair and we'll make sure that she sits a little behind Lady Celine.
Yeah, all the seating and all the seating here is remarkably comfortable, and has actual colors. Reds and purples and blacks, all the dark colors that one would associate with one of this clan. I believe you all know who I am, but please, before we begin, introduce yourselves to each other.
Madeline will stand up if no one else will. So first, and she will just say, I am Sister Madeleine, formerly the seneschal of this city, but my scholarly pursuits, well, took me elsewhere, so I have relinquished it to just as capable, if not more capable people. And she bows and looks around at everyone, smiles, and sits down again.
Orsini stands up. My name, for those of you who have not met me, is Fabio Orsini. I am the former master of harpies of Edessa, but in the past years, I was a diplomat, an emissary from the magisters in the city of Edessa to representatives of our clans from all across the known world. And he smiles widely, as he often does, looking everyone in the room in the eye, and takes a seat.
Celine will rise slowly and smile at everybody. Lady Celine Alexandris, child of Alexander Acanthus of Thebes. I come from the Athens region, recently arrived to the city. I am but a humble merchant, but information is what I specialize in all areas of every aspect. And she'll just smile at everyone politely. I look forward to working with all of you. And another deep smile and bow and sit back down again.
And then this woman would arise. Fairly average height and build, but has a rather striking hourglass figure. And this rather long black hair that kind of runs down her shoulder and down her shoulders and down her back, about all the way down. And she simply does a curtsy. A pleasure to meet all of you. I'm Lady Katerina, sire of the former Baron Ulrich. I believe I already know several of you here, but I hope that I can get to acquaint myself with more of you and build a future with these new acquaintances. And she smiles at Celine, and particularly Irene, taking her curtsy, going a little bit deeper for those two, as they are strangers, guests within this domain. And she will take a seat. And the seneschal will look towards Irene.
Who will rise slowly, take a few steps forward so that everyone can inspect her, see her. I will curtsy. My name is Lady Irene Argalis. I too come from Greece. Although my appearance I've got from my mother, who is French. I am a recent child of Lady Celine Alexandris, and it is a pleasure to be among such great people. She'll curtsy and go sit again.
She does so. The Seneschal nods towards Celine in a fashion that can only express the slightest of approval. It is good to see the old and the new coming together. We all need to be able to use all of our assets if we're to maintain control over this domain. I think you'll find you are not the only new arrivals within this city. Numerous more Cainites swell the ranks of our rivals, it seems. For remains a mystery. I have called this meeting to formulate our agenda as a clan. As my network suggests, that times are indeed changing. Rivals, perhaps an omen. While the treaty in place still retains its strength, there have been an increased number of breaches among this treaty and the traditions as of late. From who, we have yet to discover. But it is not something that can continue. Lest either of the Tremere or the Assamites begin to question our grasp. I would ask you all what your business is going forward here, and how you intend to deal with the coming challenges our clan has to face. He looks towards the old blood first.
Well, I would, as I always do, gather as much information as possible, find the perpetrators, and make somewhat of an example of them. Make sure that everyone knows that the Magisters at least have, if not entirely, then mostly, secured the peace. Does the sheriff have any information or any sort of inkling as to who this might be? If there is a specific clan that might be more at scrutiny than others?
Currently, we only have a general idea of where and when these crimes have been committed. Some within the farmlands and the fort outside the city, the domain of the Tizmisi, which would suggest the involvement of the magic circle. then we have more instances of this happening within their own domains, and now ours. It's suspected multiple individuals are behind these breaches. Some of these incidents are happening very close together, with a very close time frame, sometimes within minutes.
Should there be any doubt that the Magisters cannot hold the peace inside Edessa, I'll make sure to find out in my own way and give you the names of these perpetrators, though I carry no love for the Tremere. A violation of a signed treaty is a punishable offense.
I must ask something else. You said the Tremere have had this problem. They are currently in a war. That, as far as I know, it's not to be conducted within the city and the surrounding area. But perhaps it would be seen by some that, well, the Magisters enforce neutrality here is defending the Premier, and it might be an act of vengeance against them and us. Or is it just coincidence?
I'm sure, sister. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
I'm sure, sister, that if the Tremere are the initial wrongdoers in this act, that we shall find out who started this conflict, and that heads will roll from both sides regardless.
I merely would state that it is, well, with the war going, it might be a necessary aspect to at least consider.
It would appear that these breaches appear less politically motivated in nature. They are happening over a wide area, which would indicate this person has little regard for the law and is more interested in their own survival.
Ah, an uneducated person.
Perhaps. Or someone with nothing to lose and everything to gain.
What, if I may be so bold as to ask, what kind of breaches of the silence of the blood are we talking about?
Pardon, what did she say?
Or what type of breaches are we talking about?
A breach of domain. There have been no known breaches of the silence as of yet, although we fear this is only a matter of time.
It is at
These
least
feedings are occurring more and more frequently. First within the farmlands and the slums, and now they've reached more prominent sectors of the city. However, this is a problem that has caught the eyes of every clan. So it's something you perhaps might find common ground on, even with those outside our own coalition of dreamers.
then let each clan shepherd its own. And should this individual or collection of individuals decide to strike at us, then we shall retaliate. We are by no means more indebted to the other clans to keep the peace than they are
And-
to secure their own domain.
And surely this would also be mainly under the sheriff's job, no?
I'm sure the
Councillor
sheriff.
Ryan is looking into the matter. But a bit of friendly competition to improve our standing among our coalition, I think, would do us all some good. He smiles in a rather predatory fashion.
I'm sure the sheriff can be in more places than one. So we might have a way to prove our usefulness now that some of us, and he looks at Madeline, have returned from our endeavors.
Because a tradition has been breached, the sheriff must get involved. Although unannounced and unwanted guests are often the purview of a scourge we do not have. Perhaps I give you all a little bit of forewarning. That from these eyes and ears, I've heard and seen the prince inquiring about procuring one.
Let the other clans have their go at acquiring position. We have a stable one in the city, and we do not need to paint further targets upon our backs.
So long as it is not from either of the other coalitions. The only reason the Keeper has her position is because she operates in very good faith. The other clans are not as trustworthy. No doubt the warriors of the Salubrian Yasamites will be falling over each other for such a position. We should ensure that they don't. They are not particularly, as you said, stable creatures. How about you, Lady Alexandros?
What we know of what the people in the underground are saying, the Nosferatu, they usually have good eyes and ears on this sort of thing. What we know of them and their position.
From what we're aware, their domain is the only one not to have been struck.
Now that is interesting.
Granted, it's a most undesirable one. We've only had one attack ourselves.
And if one were to go down there to feed, well, let's assume that it is a person who knows some of us. Well, it would be most difficult to go down there without being spotted by some of the people who live down there. It would be one of the most chancy places to reach a domain.
Yet I do not doubt the fact that maybe some of the Nosferatu wish to revert back to the time when the ruler of the city was one of theirs.
Oh, they do. Mithril is most ambitious. But numbers are not on their side.
I am all for the individual merit and not the merit of the clan. my primogen, but unfortunately for them, they have proven to be lacking when it comes to rule. And I'd rather see the reins of our city in the hands of someone from the high clans.
Of course, that is agreeable, but we cannot. We can give them the illusion of success as always. After all, Nosferatu reach for the thing the highest they most desire. Give them a position which they think they can expand from, and they will always look to us as reliability.
Unfortunately for them, the Nosferatu only try and aspire to our capabilities. Neither their temper nor their face, for that matter, is fit for what we do. And neither are their talents, where they choose to blend with the shadows around them. We are the ones that bend them to our will.
I have 5 successes in appearance or manipulation subterfuge. Madeline is completely quiet and just observes as you speak of this. Try a roll of perception empathy if you want to, but yeah.
Of course, we are eternal, but it is always good to keep others in the idea of success, I find. It is most useful, I think, to give them the illusion of them doing well.
I think we should spend more time, like our primogen suggested, in finding allies rather than sending potential enemies down locked paths. I would suggest finding allies within the confines of the clans that were our allies of old. The Shemizi, the Gangrel, maybe even the Ventru, if they're wise enough to swallow their pride and see that it would not kill them if not every one of them would be a prince.
Perhaps, as I believe there are more intriguing matters to deal with this night. This is a developing issue, but not one that is an immediate threat to us. The one time we were compromised, we simply heard a scream and there were 2 dead bodies. The guard and my own retinue has been redoubled. Perhaps if we sponsor the growing ranks of the younger blood within this domain to solve our problem for us, under the purview of the sheriff, and we shall sponsor their efforts.
Then if this turns into a contest of proving to the other clans who has the best neonates to handle the job, I think we can find suitable candidates. And Orsini looks at Irene.
Seneschal
And
does too.
And
Yes, everybody looks at her at that point.
other than that, we start on a lead. It was, after all, 3 neonates. And he looks at Madeline and at Lady Katerina, since Ulrich's not around, managed to keep this city standing until help arrived.
Yes. It's important that we keep our credibility among the other clans, and particularly the bourgeois, who find themselves in an interesting position among our alliance. Perhaps, dear Irene, if you would accompany those and form a small coterie, as it were, to aid law enforcement in finding this foolish figure who sees himself as so strong as to disrespect half a city. And make sure that this coterie is aware that Clan Lasombra has supported and invested in their efforts when they notably succeed. This would be appreciated.
And if I may, Primogen. And Orsini straightens his back and takes a few steps towards Irene. And child, allow me to be the first, of course, the first after your sire, to offer my help in your endeavors. Should you find yourself in need, a few houses away from here, there is a house of ill repute. That is my domain, and my that is the place where I find shelter. Should you ever find yourself needing shelter, food, or guidance, do not fail to ask.
Just out of character, I just need to ask something. Is he saying this to the Childer while the sire is present?
Yep.
Cool.
I will just have to roll something. God damn it.
What are you rolling? What stat line, I mean?
Well, I was going to roll. Yeah, I'm going to roll the same again. Manipulation.
Okay.
Subterfuge, because...
And seeing as there's a bit of an awkward silence,
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Orsini turns
Madeline just shoots a look to Orsini, but she has a bit of a shit-eating grin on her face. She just looks at him, looks to the fletchling or neonate, looks to Orsini, and just continues to look straight ahead.
And while their eyes meet, Orsini gives Madeline his usual does it look like I give a fuck look. And Orsini turns to his gaze to Celine. And in his most elegant and flawless Byzantine Greek, of course, my offer extends to you too, my lady.
Or I'm sure it does, Orsini, Lord Orsini. Of course, my child is quite the attraction for you. I'm glad she has done her job very well. And she'll smile very politely.
The Seneschal and Lady Katerina seem to... Well, the Seneschal doesn't really seem to give a look at all. Katerina looks intrigued and somewhat entertained by the rising tension and double talk. On that note, then, perhaps we can move on. While it's important that we keep our ties to our cohorts strong, there has been another issue, an internal conflict, as it were, regarding our shall we say, academic friends. I believe the good Lady Katerina will be able to explain better the situation. It is her forte. Lady Katerina straightens up somewhat. Not in a unelegant fashion, however. She seems to almost take to the stage. Yes. My friends and I, Lady Astor and Lady Ardelian of Clan Ventry, are engaging in something of a philosophical contest. Each of us have taken to a certain noble house and are trying to explore the limits of their potential. The courts of this city have begun to re-enter a state of flux similar to our more night-bound brethren. And whoever succeeds, whichever house becomes most prominent in the eyes of its rulers, the other competitors have offered to cede boons and support to whoever is victorious. I was hoping that perhaps, as a clan, we are able to cooperate and ensure a coming inevitable victory of my house over theirs. The Ventru run houseless store. And the Cappadocians have taken grasp of the beleaguered Zengid family. May God have mercy upon their souls. Myself, I've taken control of... 1 second till I look up the name. God damn it. Because there are a lot of noble families. There's a lot. A lot of them. I can find the bloody thing. My apologies for this interlude.
And just to make this an interesting interlude, while Lady Katarina is speaking, Orsini finds his way close to his kind, dear sister and whispers into her ear, "How come Aldrich is not here?"
Madeleine, you're being taught to.
Oh, I thought it was... And she will... Okay, sorry. She will just look to her senior. Just... Well, I I have had some communication with him. I was hoping he could be here, but honestly, it has been so little time since. She pauses, looks at Orsini. I would not hold it against him if he needed more time to adjust.
We took the city in less time it took Aldrich to adjust.
Well, reflections on themes like this, I believe, could take quite a lot more time than just a year.
Irene is eavesdropping. Unfortunately, she botches. Um, you catch just enough of. You see mouse moving. You don't. Torna does not botch. No, Torna, you're fine. You get 2 successes here, about 40% of the conversation.
Cool.
Irene, you catch you kind of, well, you can't really hear anything until you hear parts that seem to incriminate Ulrich in some fashion, as if he was thrown out. He was obviously thrown out. Perhaps that's why he lost the barony. As you two whisper, Katerina continues her conversation. House Vendome. And she claps, almost as if to draw your attention back towards her. Interesting. Sorry, she doesn't say House Vendome. House Orbelian. House Orbelian was long-standing opposition to the Godwins who used to rule this city, who have since been deposed by the forces of Saladin. We find ourselves on the rise, and as such, we are, in my mind, the favourites to come out ahead in our little competition. I'm aware that the Lestors used to have a very stellar reputation. They were protected by the old royalty until they were brought down by these Sedgelics. Now their skeletons are rather easier to access. Perhaps if you started by discrediting them. Of course, I get ahead of myself. I'm merely here to state my case and the current situation between us. I would very much prefer that the Ventru don't come out ahead. It would be most troubling towards both myself and Lady Astor, I believe. Although I am as concerned as my seneschal. I do not want to think that the Cappadocians would be in any way trying to usurp our position among the nobility. Perhaps it would be wise to show our supremacy within the area. She does fight against her curse after all. It's only natural that she would come second place. She looks to Celine and Irene.
See no smile. My child and I will assist in this quite easy. We have connections in the nobility, and we will assist in any way possible, my lady. She'll look over at her child and smile.
You would have my full support in fortifying and growing a position within such competitive sectors. If you were to
That
assist
support would be most welcome, my lady. And she'll smile, and kind of half bow, great, and even in the chairs, smiling quite graciously.
perhaps I can introduce you to the Lords of House Vendome. They're looking to marry into my own. But perhaps for another evening.
Of course, she'll smile.
It is just a bit of friendly competition after all. Which of course is, by what you've heard, just a pretense and a flagrant lie.
Yeah, totally.
You might want to consider, lady, that we are indeed the greatest merchants of the city. And what is a noble house without its treasury? And Orsini smiles.
Ah, yes. Has been something of a sticking point ever since House Rocci left us. I'm sure it would be most appreciated. No,
I think I know a few
house ever
bankers.
truly. Oh, sorry.
I think I knew a few bankers in the area that would be most eager for the business of a noble line, my lady.
So long as they do not implicate my own holdings, interjects the Seneschal. Part of the reason this domain is so secure is that we do pride ourselves on running a clean business.
Well, then my brother, our brother, should be the man to talk to. Madeline says that with a certain amount of sarcasm, maybe?
I'm sure he'll be able to work past his impediments. He says, as it's quite obvious to everyone that Orsini's shadow looms over this entire room.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. What about my funky thing that I have going on as well? My little flaw about my shadows and all that. I forgot about that.
Let me check for 1 second. I have your sheet up. Alright, I need to go to a freaking thing. Yes. Orsini, you realise Celine's shadow is acting in much the same way as yours.
So if one was alive, it would be quite uncomfortable to be around this place, I'm guessing.
Oh, absolutely. There's a reason we're at the top of the spire with, like, no actual unaware human in sight. There are ghouls around, and they were suitably scared of you, but they're ghouls. They're always scared of you anyway.
Despite my impediments, it is my chowder who handles the business. And I'm sure that some of my contacts could prove useful. I do have a habit of providing exotic wares from the city-states. Maybe if something catches the eye of a noble house, we can profit. And of course, as Orsini says that he looks towards the seneschal, giving the devil his due.
Perhaps. Whatever is the most efficient path towards success. Lest it stain our honor, of course. I could never abide such a thing. And I hope but I thank you all. It warms me to see such a good-natured cooperation among us, especially from yourself. It's good to see you taking up the duties of the court once more. I see why my child picked you. I need to see what her stat line is.
It is an honor for you to receive us. Lady Catherine, if I may be so bold, it is the first time I have the pleasure of meeting you. I, as you know, have a long relationship with, working relationship with your child. Would it be possible for the two of us to have a polite conversation, maybe after this or at another time?
Oh yes, Lady Madeline. Oric spoke so fondly of you. Unfortunately, he has been absent from the city for some time. For several months now. I do miss him greatly. Although I'm sure he will return.
I had kept in some contact by letter, but it has been some time since I have gotten a reply. He was, as understandably as it is,
If you
coming to terms with certain developments.
The death of Michael struck him most harshly, I believe.
Indeed.
If you would be willing to allow me to gaze upon these writings, I would be more than happy to offer you a trivial boon for the service.
Well, as soon as I have unpacked and found them, of course.
It's most appreciated, Sister Madeline. You are too kind.
No, think nothing of it at all.
Oh no, I do. You have been most hospitable to myself and my child.
Thank you.
I would not like that to think it's not known or noted. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to roll perception empathy, she got 6 successes on her subterfuge check because she has a specialty in intent. This is towards what she said towards Orsini. Madeleine, she's being genuine. And I'll just give that to everyone.
That's the number of dice I have, so no.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think anyone can actually contest this roll because she rolled extremely well. Yeah, George, that's the 90-10 was her roll towards you. If you think you can match 6 successes, go ahead.
Do I?
This is her like the one thing she's extremely good at.
Chris, I was referring to figuring out what's wrong with Celine's shadow, not with what Lady Katerina said. But
Oh,
still.
what's your roll for that? What's your
Perception.
dice pool for that? Like 8 dice?
Yeah, I can roll, but give me a difficulty.
It is odd, but you suffer from a similar condition, so I'm going to say difficulty. It would normally be 8 because it's so strange, but for you it's diff 6 because it's something. This is your thing. This is your area of study.
4 successes.
Had like amazing amount of successes. I think you have your specialty would apply here in ruling it out. I will just PM you what the hell's going on with her. Her shadow. So there you go. Well, are you on my chat? No. There you are. There you go. That's what you get, largely. Oh, and you'd also get this. There you go. Continue onwards. She'll take a seat after complimenting Sister Madeline. And say, I believe that's all I have for you. I thank you for hearing me out. Hold on. I believe other than that, the only last issue is, and then all of you just hear, like just running up the stairs and quick knocking. And Ashanashal looks very displeased at this. Irritated is perhaps the most accurate word. As he just kind of slowly rises up from his desk, and you see the desk almost sink into the floor a little bit. You see him walk over to the door. And you see an unfamiliar looking face at the door. He whispers something into his ear. If you all want to roll perception alertness, go ahead. Diff is 7, because this guy isn't very subtle, but he is still whispering.
Now I got 2 successes.
4.
Okay. Saskia and Torna, your worst... Irene, your worst fears are realized. The guy who got thrown out of the building is now coming back up the stairs.
Okay.
Say anyone with successes. 2 successes. You hear the name Ulrich in there. 4 successes. Celine. You hear a lot of this conversation. It's a rather desperate retelling of Ulrich having arrived in the city and has just walked through the domain and appears to be heading towards this building at fairly high speed on a vicious-looking mount.
Yeah, Selena just whisper into her child's ear in Greek, "Stay behind me, something is coming."
She'll nod and do what is told.
Madeline will just get up. She doesn't seem panicked, but she'll just get up, go to the go near the door and just wait.
Orsini will do the same.
Yeah,
Maybe a
Selena
step or
casually rise and follow. Yeah.
maybe a step or two in front of the ladies because he's a gentleman at heart.
Yeah. You guys hear. Well, you're not really sure what noise you hear just outside, but it's fairly audible, even from at the top of this building. It's like a combination between a horse neighing and a growl of some sort.
Yeah.
And then you hear the very real thumping, kind of like power walking up the stairs. Yep. And the seneschal returns to his seat, and he looks a little bit calmer. He shoos the retainer away as he hears this.
Choose to follow the seneschal's lead. Seneschal's calm. We're all calm. Type of
Yeah,
thing.
pretty much. And you hear the thumping get louder and louder and louder and louder. And then it stops. Then you see the door very slowly open, almost in incredible contrast to the thumping of the stairs and the desperation of the ghoul. And you just see, well, some of you may know him. He looks sharper than he was before. He looks hardened. And he has a vicious look on his face. He walks to the center of the room and seems to ignore every single one of you, even the seneschal, apart from Madeleine. And then he stops. And then suddenly it's as if he realizes you're there.
Ulrich, it is so wonderful to see you again. It has been far too long.
His rather furious look subsides somewhat upon seeing you. Yes, it has been. Is there anyone here who is below my station? Because if you are, you're going to leave. He looks towards Selena and Irene, who he has not met before.
Selena just looks at Irene very casually. Go home, my dear. This is conversation for the adults.
Yes, my lady.
Go straight home, she says quite firmly.
Yes, my lady.
My child will escort you home.
Thank you, my lord. And she'll curtsy very deeply again. And yeah, we'll leave immediately.
Good evening. For the record, this man is actually in golden armor. This isn't a surprise to Madeleine or Orsini, who has seen him in this armor before. Although it is a bit curious that it is perhaps as good as it was on the day he got it. And it is, it's Holy Roman mail, I believe. Being as old as you are, Celine, you'd recognize this armor from the Byzantine Empire.
Yes. Yes, I would.
It's actually based off of Belisarius's armor, the general.
Ooh.
It looks very heavy. It looks very ostentatious and ornate and incredibly beautiful. It looks like a masterwork. It also looks like it could take almost any weapon you could throw at it.
Damn. She just nods watching it, quite fascinated.
He has a long sword sheathed, which is openly sheathed, by the way. He shuts the door upon Irene's leaving. Irene, you see a child of Ulrich, who introduces herself to you as a donor, and she will escort you back towards wherever you need to go. You get to choose.
Home. She'll definitely go home.
She's remarkably polite to you and very sociable
Oh,
and very friendly.
well, so Irene will definitely be trying to be as pleasant and entertaining as she can possibly be.
Yeah, she's even respectful towards you, which is a bit strange.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the scene, guys. Gotta go. I know.
No problem. As we zoom back in at the top of the building, the door closes shut.
And
The seneschal goes, what would be the meaning of such a blunt arrival? Ulrich? It's unlike you.
and Orsini, for his part, goes to somehow meet Aldrich's gaze. What a marvelous entrance, brother. Now, like our Primogen said, pray tell, why have you come in such a fashion that is unlike you and thrown a poor neonate out? What could be so important?
I arrived bearing grave news, hunting a trail. 2. But they're one and the same. I come here hunting the one that slew the dream. I know she's in this city, and I know she's hiding herself here, and I will find her. And I will destroy her. The seneschal looks a bit, what the fuck, look at this?
You mean to say that the person who slew Michael is residing within the city?
Not just Michael, one of our own, Peter the Humble, who also resided in Constantinople. A marked dabblerist and infernalist.
Well, that is news.
I do not know why she has come here, only that she has. I lost trace of her only but a day ago. She goes by the name of Black Mary.
Quite a simple name, but well, sends the message, I suppose. If the seneschal and she just nods very courteously towards both her superiors, I suppose you could call them, and she says, if I am allowed, I would assist Ulrich in this matter. This is of quite a grave importance.
So it may be.
I do not wish to give you the wrong idea, brother. But would it be wise to hunt one so old and powerful on your own?
The wisdom of the decision is not my priority. but my duty to defend the dream from those that would destroy it is. I've fought her once before. She is inexperienced for her age.
Then, even though I cannot and will not help you with this mission against this so-called Black Mary, I can assure you that if any of our family, be them residents or just passing through the city, can be found guilty of infernalist, they shall die by my hand and my hand alone. It is those who follow paths of demons that belittle the name of me and mine. And he's giving Ulrich that, you know what I'm talking about, look.
I don't come asking for help, only to inform you of my mission. The prince will need to be informed. But this entity, she is, as you said, Orsini, despite her vulnerabilities, extremely dangerous.
I understand that, but do you expect to do this on by yourself or with your father, or?
For now, I shall continue the hunt by myself. The concern of the Shitty should be rooting out the hive she intends to implement or find. It's possible they're already here. Anyone of K-Night Law above 4? Or at 4, sorry?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Nope. Nope.
That's fine. That's fine. You know what infernalists are referring to? OC will do.
Yes.
I have managed to combat her largely because the shadows we wield can be used as a shield against her own malformed gifts.
Then maybe the other shadows that I wield will prove even more useful.
Perhaps. She seems to have as much control over them and those within them as any other of our elders.
Do not underestimate my abilities, brother. It has not served you well in the past.
Then I suppose we'll see whether you find her or she finds you. I'll be waiting regardless. I haven't introduced myself to you. My apologies. I am Baron Ulrich. I used to be the prince of this city.
Cena smile and bow, basically, when he mentions that.
Lady Katerina is my sire. The good Seneschal is my grandsire. We've both done a most excellent job with my departure.
I am honored to be in such privileged company, my lord. If you need my assistance along with anyone else, I am happy to provide. I am Celine Alexandrius, and Scylla recently arrived from Greece.
I see. If I cry or help, I will call for you.
Of course,
Right
my lord.
now, just remain as if everything were normal.
She'll nod.
A disease can spread, and I believe she has come here because it already has. I'll be looking into this.
I'm sure she'll have no great success inside the city. We are, after all, old enough and strong enough to handle this, not to mention the fact that I'm sure that our good old friend, the Red Man, whether he still is in the city or not, does not take kindly to infernalists.
But some of us are not so old and not so versatile. Particularly the youngers. They will have to be watched very carefully.
The Red Man will know, but how he will act, he really does. We will see. I intend to meet with him soon. Celine, you've never heard of a Red Man?
Nope. I'm like, who the fuck's that? Whatever,
Yep.
you know.
Lol.
Do you believe him connected? Or that he would know certain things?
I don't know yet. I don't think he is connected to her. But I think he can see the connection she has. Whether he'll be able to tell me is anybody's guess.
Best is always with you.
Yet if they happen to cross paths, I'm willing to bet my money that this Black Mary will share the fate of the Kaitef that the Red Man met so many years ago.
Perhaps. From what I can tell, she can hide as well as he. Which is why I have had such... Which is why I have not been able to kill her already.
Well, let us just hope that you will be able to communicate with him that this is a potential diabolist. And, well, I'm quite sure that he will be able to find her. But, as you said, whether or not he will actually understand what you say is up to fate, I suppose.
Yet I think that before we inform the Red Man, the Prince should be informed as fast
Yes.
as he can.
I believe this is something our triumvirate will take more interest in than the other two. Like, disgusted look on his face. Wasteful coalitions. To their own loss, of course.
Everyone in the city needs to be informed, brother. They all have their ways of handling.
I will.
And you should send letters to, or I shall, if you wish, to our brothers in the other cities. Let them be warned and prepared.
It would be appreciated. I've already warned all the other cities that I've gone through. But there are still some, perhaps, to the east. If she's heading in that direction. That's where she's been going so far.
Once I settle in, because I just recently came back to the city, I shall send letters to the surrounding cities. Let them know and tell them to prepare. Maybe she'll have worse time adapting in a city that's prepared for her arrival.
That sounds like a wise idea. My seneschal, my grandsire. And he'll take one knee and he takes out his sword and kind of, puts on the ground as he kneels, kind of, like a knight. I apologize for my tactless entry. I've been flustered these last few nights. And I feel it important you know what comes your way in your city. And the seneschal temples his fingers, kind of weighing the apology. Understandable, I suppose. You do face a most frightening adversary, and one that has wounded us all. You have my support for your mission, and I'll make sure the prince is informed. There will be an Elysium soon. This announcement should be made there. Narek nods. And Seneschal motions for him to rise, and Oracle rise, and he will take a seat next to Madeleine.
Ulrich, do you know of what clan she has from?
She is not one of the 13. He does not say, no, actually, he is not one of the 14. She is an outsider among the great clans.
A frightening prospect. And, well, even more reason for us to see her gone as fast as possible.
What I find most disturbing is perhaps her ability to wield the power of all of them.
Well, let us not get ahead of ourselves.
I would hope that is true. Perhaps the unique specialties of our scholarly brothers will be able to assist alongside the Cappadocians. The Salubri, I believe, will be too invested, wasting their time with the Tremere than to face the threat that they were built to fight.
We will not
doubt
know
the
until the
Salub-
announcement. Oh, you go first, man.
I doubt the fact that the Salubri would not pause their conflict with the Premier. They are, after all, built to handle infernalists. And though some of us in the city have more unorthodox views, infernalism is not something we tolerate. But I still think that before any Elysium, you should inform as many clans as you can tonight. It is one thing to announce everyone. It is another thing to undermine security for the sake of courtesy.
No, the court shall be informed. The public announcement will be made at Elysium. I suppose
Then I shall.
you all can consider this preview a courtesy in its own right.
What did you say about, was it her that carried the disease, or did I mishear?
She is the disease. And I fear she's here because there are more like her here. Or if she's going to create more. For some reason, Edessa finds itself a focal point for conflict more often than not. And while I am no seer, I can read between the lines.
So she is seeking to spread something among the mortals, or our kind, or both.
She probably wishes to spread her foul tendencies to the rest of us. Although it's
Then
also
maybe
possible. There is one other thing I should note. The only thing of substance I know about her, other than her name and her face, she is searching for something. That I don't know what. But she
then
keeps going
maybe
to different areas. Wildlands, ruins, tombs.
Tombs.
She has not found it. Yet.
Which means if she is staying here, then she's either looking for something or she's building.
Or both.
Most likely both, I would assume as well.
then maybe we should ask for tabs kept on each of us, whether old or new, old elders or neonates. Should any new faces arrive after this tab is kept in place, we will have a suspect. It comes down to each clan to keep a close watch on its members. No neonates can arise spontaneously without us discovering. And maybe, like our good Seneschal said, for the time being, brother, you might wish to take on the mantle of the Scourge and handle that problem personally.
Perhaps I leave that to the court's discretion. As I do for implements of other stations the princedom has yet to implement. But it is something I shall be constantly watching out for, regardless. If you find anything that would indicate such activity, please report it immediately, so that I might purge it from this domain and ensure your safety. This goes beyond the notion of a single city. She is a threat to this entire world. I am sorry to burden you with such news.
I can understand why this must come in this way. and why you are so passionate. It does not, however, diminish the joy of seeing you once more.
Those occasions I hope I can create more of. He
I
smiles
look
for the
forward
first
to
time
it.
since he's been here.
Regardless of our clan and our outlook, an infernal is so strong as a threat to us all. Maybe this would be the common cause that unites all the clans.
One would hope that it really is a shame. Regardless, if they cannot, we shall do what they won't. Says the Seneschal. I am loath to take a direct hand in such things, however. I will be keeping my network close to me, and I will see what I can turn up for all who would endeavour to keep the city clean of such filth. However, please do not rely on me alone. I expect you all to act on your own merits.
We shall see where the nights to come take us. Maybe there are others in the cities around us that fought this menace before our brother got to them. Maybe they have information.
It would be something worth looking into. I know. From what my grandchild has just told us, that she has been through several cities already. Perhaps there are some survivors to her conflicts. Otherwise, we may need to look inward, but it is worth looking into. I myself will stretch out my contacts further into these areas. Such tragic news to be dropped on us, but a few days before the first Elysium since the sacking of Constantinople. Auric bristles a little bit at this, but doesn't say anything in response to the Seneschal. Obviously, it goes without saying that none of this information is to leave this room until the announcement is made publicly.
Of course.
Of course.
Orsini nods somewhat reluctantly.
There is one last challenge facing us that I was going to go into before we were interrupted. There is a house within the slums. Shall we say a small collection of them? To our newcomers, we have dealings with those who operate there. You are not to enter that area. It is for all intents and purposes their domain. We cannot guarantee your security if you go there. And if you do, you'll be hunted down.
Are they still here? Well, obviously, I would
Yes.
have thought that they had moved on by now, but apparently not.
They reproduce the same as any other mortal. They are different, but the same.
Please.
Should they prove this big of a threat, maybe we should lure our enemy inside.
Perhaps. I have come to fear of Oryx's recent announcement that they may have overlapping goals in some twisted sense. They have been attempting to expand recently. So it may be wise to use our more mundane reaches of power to check it, in some sense. Just to keep them honest. They have not broken their bargains so far, but the ones who made it are long since gone. It might be that the time for such a treaty comes to an end, and I would urge you all to prepare for this scenario should that come to pass. Otherwise, continue business as usual. I'd like to talk to you specifically, Madeleine, if that would be all right regarding this issue.
Of course.
I also wish to talk to you, Primogen, in private at your earliest convenience. As you well know, I have returned from the castle. I bear some news.
I can always take time for one of such standing as yourself. If there's something you wish to discuss in private, we can perhaps convene on the morrow.
Orsini, for his part, stretches. Unless you wish to tell us anything else, I shall take my leave. I've just barely arrived in the city, and there are things that need sorted. Also, my childer should be informed of my arrival. It's been, after all, 3 years. Orsini
I'm sure he'll be
gives
pleased to see you again. He's been doing well in your absence.
Orsini gives his Primogen a polite bow, also equally polite bow to Lady Katerina. And he, in an unprecedented gesture of brotherly love towards Ulrich, puts his hand on his shoulder. Worry not, brother. It will be the first time that the Lasombra of Edessa have faced threats far greater and came out victorious.
You speak truth. I hope it ends as well as the first time.
Orsini also nods to Madeline. Sister, I'm glad to see that the knights find you in good health. You are, as always, welcome among the doors of my establishment. I'm sure my childer would be happy to see you.
Well, perhaps I shall make a visit as soon as I can.
And finally, Orsini turns to Celine. My lady. Actually, he's practicing his Greek again. My lady, I hope that I did not bring any harm or insult to your status by extending my help towards your children. It is merely what I saw fit for the occasion.
Of course not, my lord. You are a perfect gentleman, as always. She'll smile quite polite.
And as he says this, he moves a bit closer and lowers his voice. And should you ever want to find out how to handle your little predicament, find me. I have ways of handling our condition.
There'd be a noted, not a blush, but a slight color of skin, like a slight tint of red appear in her skin. She'll smile and whisper very down, and if he speaks Greek, she'll whisper it in Greek. That would be most engaging for both of us, I think.
You'll notice that Orsini's Greek is really elegant and really high class. The Greek that the nobles speak. And Orsini bows again, deeply to all gathered there, and puts his hood back on and leaves.
I believe.
Selena probably do much the same, start bowing and, making her goodbyes.
Believe we can call this meeting adjourned. My apologies for it taking such a dark turn. But I'm sure, if nothing else, we are accustomed to such things.
Quite so.
Well then, have a pleasant evening. And the Seneschal will bid you adieu as you leave. Auric will walk out of the building with Sister Madeleine, and will offer to walk her home. Or offer to walk her to a haven he is always possessed within the city.
Yeah, and she will gladly oblige and just say, it will be good to relax for a bit. You have been through so very much this last night.
I hope we can reconnect. It's been too long.
Quite so. Besides, you cannot go on the hunt if your mind is scattered and unfocused.
I'm sure there's something you can provide me with. As he helps you onto what you know is a literal bear horse.
The small and yeah.
Because Baron perks.
She just claps the freakishly Seniksi creation, but she's seen it enough, so she knows that this thing. But yeah, she will just gladly come up and will follow the previous Baron.
As they rode off into the night. And if that is all, thank you, players, for playing. Thank you for just watching. This has been the first scene of Edessa Season 2. I thank you all. And we will hopefully see you on many more episodes to come.